My parents banned me from my sister's wedding with 4 cold words: only family allowed. I stood on the front porch holding the invitation I wasn't supposed to receive, reading those words again while I could hear my mother laughing inside the house. My sister's bridal shower was happening only a few feet away, yet I was treated like a stranger, looking through someone else's window. My phone buzzed with another message from my father. Please don't make this difficult. I stared at the screen until it blurred. They weren't asking me to understand. They were asking me to disappear. I had spent years showing up whenever they needed me, paying bills they never mentioned to anyone, fixing problems that somehow became invisible the moment they were solved. Now, 3 days before the wedding, I had been erased from the family photo before it was ever taken. They thought I would cry, argue, or beg for a seat at the table. Instead, I quietly folded the invitation, slipped it back into the envelope, turned around, and walked to my car without saying a word. They mistook my silence for surrender. 3 days later, they would discover it had been a warning. My name is Daniel, the oldest of 3 children, and according to everyone outside the family, the dependable one. I owned a small event logistics company that specialized in solving impossible problems without anyone noticing the chaos behind the curtain. At home though, reliability wasn't celebrated. It was expected. My younger sister, Emily, was the favorite, bright and charming, while I became the invisible safety net. Whenever something broke, someone called me. Whenever something succeeded, someone thanked everyone else. I convinced myself that love didn't always sound like appreciation. Looking back, I realized I confused being needed with being valued. The insults were never loud enough for outsiders to notice. My mother introduced me as Emily's brother, even when people already knew my name. My father interrupted me during family dinners, only to repeat my ideas minutes later as his own. When wedding plans began, I spent weeks recommending vendors, checking contracts, and warning them about hidden fees. They smiled politely, ignored every suggestion, and hired an expensive planner who promised perfection. Then my cousin accidentally mentioned there would be less drama if I stayed home. Everyone laughed, except me. That sentence echoed longer than it should have. Less drama. I replayed every family gathering in my mind and realized I had never been the source of conflict. I had simply been the easiest person to disappoint because I never fought back. The wedding ban wasn't an isolated decision. It was the final chapter of a story I'd been helping write by accepting every insult in silence. Sitting alone in my office that evening, I stopped asking why they treated me this way. I started asking why I kept allowing it. I didn't plan revenge in anger. Anger fades too quickly. I planned with clarity. Months earlier, my sister had asked if my company could act as the backup coordinator in case anything went wrong. She signed a simple agreement that gave us emergency authority over transportation, vendor scheduling, and venue communication if the primary planner failed. Nobody remembered the paperwork because everyone assumed it would never matter. I filed every document carefully, confirmed every clause with my attorney, and stored digital copies where they couldn't disappear. Then I waited. The call came exactly 3 days after they banned me. Their glamorous wedding planner had vanished after a payment dispute, taking final schedules, vendor confirmations, and transportation details with her. My father's voice cracked for the first time in years. Daniel, please, we need you. I looked out my office window before answering. I wasn't smiling. I wasn't celebrating. I simply reminded him that my company only worked with clients who respected our team. Then I offered professional assistance under a new emergency contract. Paid in full before work began. He signed within the hour. The wedding happened. Guests never noticed how close everything came to collapsing. The flowers arrived on time because I made the calls. The musicians found the venue because I redirected them. Dinner was served because my staff solved problems nobody else even saw. Yet I attended only as a contractor, wearing a black suit with my company badge instead of a family boutonniere. My parents watched strangers thank me for saving the day while they struggled to meet my eyes. Respect had finally arrived, but it came attached to an invoice instead of affection. Weeks later, my mother called to apologize. She admitted they assumed I would always forgive them because I always had before. My father said banning me from the wedding was the biggest mistake he'd ever made. I listened quietly without rushing to comfort either of them. Forgiveness isn't measured by how quickly you erase pain. Sometimes it's measured by how clearly you remember the lesson. We still speak occasionally, but our relationship now has boundaries where endless sacrifice used to be. Family, I learned, is not defined by who shares your name. It's defined by who never asks you to prove you deserve a place beside them.